going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and this is the last chance I get to give you guys a podcast like this, because we are now in what I'm going to call the falling bricks portion of the road to WrestleMania. And let me take a minute, because that sounds really full of myself to just like be declaring what time we're in, etc. Because you guys know we're in the road to WrestleMania, but we're in the, most people would go a little bit more generic and say, oh, it's the home stretch, everything else is out of the way, we're almost there, etc. But we really are in the falling bricks portion of the road to WrestleMania. What do I mean by that? The year starts off. We have no idea what we start speculating around, Survivor Series. We start seeing who's positioned where, who's not there, who's there but might not be, etc. But then the real speculation kicks up around Royal Rumble. Who do we want to win? Who do we want to be the champion? How do we want those matches to come together? And basically, they drip feed you two answers. It used to be they drip fed you one answer, and the one answer was who was going to main event for the WWE Championship. Now, the definition of main event has taken a beating over the years, but now they give it to you with two. They tell you who's going to be the men's main event and the women's main event. Now, that doesn't work when there's three titles right now, but there's technically four titles: WWE, Universal, Raw Women's, SmackDown Women's. But the winners of the Rumbles should be the main events. Now, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Ronda Rousey, they broke the trend where you don't anymore say, well, the men's match will main event WrestleMania, but they drip fed us two things: Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley. Good calls. Now, you guys know what I think about Cody Rhodes. I don't have to go over what I think of Cody Rhodes. There's a lot that he brings to the table, and there's a lot that I wish he would take with him when he leaves. Rhea Ripley was the call. Sorry, WWE's doing a lot of good things right now, but they really did solidify a little bit of my trust when they actually did the thing they were supposed to do. They gave Rhea Ripley that spot. She's going to go up against Charlotte Flair. Two of the best. We're going to talk about Elimination Chamber in a second, but two of the best for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And obviously we're going to get Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. Whoever that may be, going into Elimination Chamber. Now, Elimination Chamber, we tell some more stories. We reinforced who the United States champion is in one chamber, and in the other chamber, we got Asuka winning, and Asuka's consolation prize is hopefully she'll be the one to save the Raw Championship from Bianca Belair. Not saying she's not an athlete. I have to precursor this every time. Not saying she's not an athlete, not saying she's a decent wrestler, but her title reign and her character, quite frankly, are stale as fuck. And hey, I'm a Charlotte fan, but I'm still cheering for Ronda Rousey to take the title off her as well. So what do we have? Set in stone. If you go to Wikipedia, if you go to WWE.com, what do you have? You have Roman versus Cody. You have Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. You have Bianca Belair versus this new Asuka. And now, I will say, before we carry on, because I'm touching on Asuka here, I do think it's hilarious that the people who make fun of goofy wrestling, the people who make fun of spooky paranormal wrestling, the people that make fun of the goo, the people that make fun of, it's so terrible that WWE always books the women like they're crazy, all of those same people are right on Asuka's ass, and they're not wrong. They're wrong about all the other stuff. They're not wrong about being on Asuka's ass, because her character and her revitalization since she's come back under this new guise, apparently it's like Kana in Japan. I didn't watch New Japan, so I won't speak to it. It has been amazing. But all the people that like that are also the other people that tell you that it's very, very bad, specifically when they targeted Alexa Bliss. I wonder why. Moving on, those are your three matches. Those are your three, I guess, tentpoles for WrestleMania weekend. I don't know where Asuka and Belair fit in the mix. I would say put them on night 2, seeing as the other women's championship is probably going to main event night 1, or at least it should. But what it means is now that's all set. Elimination Chamber, we put more pieces in place. And the wondering, this is why I say it's the falling blocks, or the falling bricks portion of the road to WrestleMania, is the wondering lessens. Every announcement we get, every match we get confirmed, you wonder less and less. You have a whole card you can fill with fantasy booking at the beginning, but then they say, no, the men's championship match is this, the women's championship match is this, and then they start filling in all the blocks, and everything that they confirm is one less thing that we can fantasy book, at least as far as what the matches are going to be. So what I have here is 10 matches. Now, these are matches pretty sure are going to happen. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Maybe, we don't know. We don't know what the situations are going to be. A lot of them sort of interact with each other as well. But basically, more or less, rambling introduction, 10 matches that we are probably, maybe, sorta hinted at for WrestleMania weekend, but have not on this date. What's the date today? It is February 23rd, as I record this right now. I'm recording this the day before SmackDown, so obviously SmackDown is going to come along and make a liar out of me for everything. But right now, none of these are confirmed, and they're all matches that we think, excuse me, in one way, shape, or form, are going to go down at WrestleMania. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Separate conversation. These are 10 matches that we think are going to happen. And because I want to ramble even more, the first one is technically an honorary mention because it's technically not happening at WrestleMania. It's happening at Stand and Deliver. And that is Grayson Waller versus Shawn Michaels. Now, Shawn Michaels retired. And it was great. And he got credit for a long time for being one of those guys that actually retired and actually meant it. He's gone on numerous interviews to say, you know, I want to be respectful to my word, be respectful to The Undertaker who retired me, etc. And then Saudi Arabia happened, and that tag team match happened with DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, and we all wish it didn't happen. Kane's wig fell off. I think that was where Triple H tore his pec, and Undertaker winded himself trying to blow the hair out of his face, and we don't want to talk about it. Shawn Michaels actually, considering the other three, came out of that match the best. It's weird watching him wrestle with no hair. It's kind of a punch right in the childhood and a reminder that we're all getting old. But yeah, he said immediately afterward that he regretted doing it, he shouldn't have done it, that kicked my ass, that sucked, etc., etc., etc. But now that Papa H is running the whole damn show, Shawn Michaels has taken the reins of NXT, he's the de facto authority figure, and they haven't made it too obnoxious, which is really good. He's popped up a couple of times to make announcements, he's popped up a couple of times to make, like, really big contract signing type moments, or when he announced the Iron Survivor Challenge, which I still think was an underrated success. But Grayson Waller took aim at him after they went back out on the road. They went to Charlotte, North Carolina. They went to Vengeance Day, and I can't remember the name of the arena. Still, for the amount of times I've come up on here not knowing the name of the arena, I should smack myself. But that's another story for another time. But he failed in the steel cage to get the title from Braun Breaker, and then he immediately interrupted Shawn Michaels' media call afterwards, being super disrespectful, etc., etc., etc. Tyler Bate made his return, and he was going to fight for Shawn Michaels' honor and all that kind of thing, so they had a match, and then he went back to the gorilla position and told off Shawn Michaels again, and Matt Bloom got involved, and then he hijacked the episode of NXT this past week, you know, with some graphics and some Peacock special effects, and he selected the Stand and Deliver icon before calling out Shawn Michaels in 2 weeks or a week and a half or so to come out on the Grayson Waller effect and talk to him face to face. The implication is that he's going to challenge him to a match at WrestleMania, and I love this because this absolutely fits into how ridiculous NXT is. NXT is a ridiculous cartoon show, but not in the same way that 2.0 was. 2.0 you couldn't take seriously whatsoever. You've got absolutely great wrestlers that are trapped on that show and should be on the main roster. Now you've got a sort of a happy medium between classic black and gold NXT and what 2.0 was, and it's this sort of cartoon show where these guys that are awesome get to show they're awesome, and it still makes you want them to go to the main roster. Carmelo Hayes is another great example, although I'm pretty sure at Stand and Deliver he's going to pick up the NXT Championship. So, what does this look like? What does this do for everybody? Shawn Michaels is going to put Grayson Waller over, like that's a thing. Grayson Waller is probably going to the main roster, so this is going to be his final swan song in NXT. It'll be a much better last match, and I'm using tight air quotes when I say that, for Shawn Michaels than the Saudi Arabia match was. He's going to want to make this kid look like $1 million, and it's a different kind of accomplishment for somebody on NXT, because you're never going to have another Austin McMahon, but you're also flipping the script on Austin McMahon, because Austin was the anti-hero, I guess you could say, more than babyface. But I can't remember a time, and somebody's going to immediately correct me down in the box below, where a match that went to a pay-per-view between a wrestler and an authority figure, where the authority figure was the good guy. Am I wrong in that? Somebody correct me down in the box below. I think it's a very unique thing. I think it's something where Shawn Michaels can go in and be very giving with whatever he has left to give. He doesn't lose anything. He's fucking Shawn Michaels. He's one of the best to ever do it. When at CM Punk's hype, my biggest compliment to him was that he was the next Shawn Michaels. Not that they were similar characters, but that they were the guys that could go in there and do anything. They could have a technical match, they could have a brawl, they could have a high-flying thing, they could have a scrap, they could do any stipulation you wanted to do, etc. So my biggest measuring stick in order to pay CM Punk a compliment was to compare him to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is one of the best to do it ever. And you don't lose that. I mean, physically you can lose some things, but mentally I don't think you lose that. You take what you have left to give and you know how to give it. Grayson Waller is going to go in there, and for his thing, like, he's a better person to be across the ring from than Kane and The Undertaker. Again, Undertaker, one of the best to do it, but he's done. He's toast. Somebody has to be in there holding up the match from an energy, from a spontaneity point of view. So Grayson Waller he's not there to carry Shawn Michaels, but he's there to be a great person for Shawn Michaels to carry, if that makes sense. If that is the match, it's going to be a brawl. It's going to be something tailored to whatever Shawn Michaels can do. I think it's a really awesome way to get some eyes on Stand and Deliver. It's NXT's version of having a celebrity match on the card. We're going to talk about Logan Paul later on. We're going to talk about John Cena coming back for a match later on. This is what NXT can do for that, because NXT has brought people up and brought people down and brought people up and brought people down. Which brings me to the alternative for this match, because there's only two ways that this can go. Either Shawn Michaels is so pissed off at Grayson Waller that he's going to dust off his cap one more time, tighten up those wrestling boots, and hit one more sweet chin music one more time for the good times. Or he's going to pick a surrogate. And there's only one person who should be on the WrestleMania card, let's be real for a second, for his ability. Oh, he's a little bit goofy these days. Yeah, but he's still fucking fantastic. And that's Johnny Gargano. For two reasons. It's very publicly documented what a big fan of Shawn Michaels Johnny Gargano is. There's a built-in thing right there. Even Candice LeRae has participated in the Royal Rumble in Shawn Michaels inspired gear, etc. So, first of all, him, being on Shawn Michaels' shortlist would make sense. But also, think about when Johnny Gargano went away. How did he go away? He got the crap kicked out of him by Grayson Waller. So, hey, Johnny, you want to get revenge on that guy that fucked with you a while ago and do it on my behalf? You're going to get Johnny Gargano. He's going to have great fucking, HBK tribute gear. It's going to be fucking awesome. Grayson Waller versus Johnny Gargano as an exhibition match on the undercard of Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker at Stand and Deliver. Fucking fantastic. I still want it to be Shawn Michaels because I want to know what that match looks like. But the other alternative is to have him come back and, to have Johnny Gargano come back and represent somebody that's clearly a mentor to him. If WWE hadn't fucked up and lost Adam Cole, then it would be Grayson Waller versus Adam Cole, baby. But no, Adam Cole's too busy doing a super cool reality show for crackhead Tony Khan. It's another topic for another day, isn't it? Revolution looks like it's gonna suck balls, actually. So this is going to be really good. That was Stand and Deliver, though. Technically part of WrestleMania weekend, but not part of WrestleMania. A little bit of an undercard comedy match next. Elias and Boogs, they both play guitar and neither one of them are doing anything else. That's going to be fun. I want them to do like 100 guitars match. Like instead of like tables, ladders, and chairs, the match is just them. The ring is just surrounded by guitars, and they keep hitting each other with guitars until one of them doesn't get up. It's a last man standing match, but with guitars. Or, you know, you do the Symphony of Destruction match and somebody gets powerbombed through a fucking piano. Braun Strowman comes out playing the double bass like it's a regular guitar. All kinds of ridiculousness can go with it. I would love it if you get some random musical celebrity. I mean, they had Hardy at the Rumble, and I think we can all agree that that was a little bit regrettable, but get some kind of musical person in there to be the guest referee or to be the ring announcer or something like that, and they can get involved and they can hit Elias with a guitar, and that'll be the thing that makes Boogs thing. I'm glad that Boogs is back. His injury last year at WrestleMania looked like it fucking sucked, but they need to do something with him other than be the guy that screams in the back and beats up the Miz, which is what everybody does. Incidentally, what is your favorite, and it doesn't have to be WrestleMania, put it down in the box below. I'd really love to get some interaction down there. What is your favorite musical integration at a WWE or NXT pay-per-view? I'm going to go with one that doesn't get talked about very often, and it was when Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm live sang Ember Moon to the ring at TakeOver. I thought that was really cool. I really did like that. There have been other musical performances that I have liked. Skylar Grey has done some cool shit that I've enjoyed, even though it's not entirely my thing. But put it down in the box below. Also, if you guys are listening to me on Spotify right now, apparently Anchor is letting me see my Spotify views separately from everything else now. So you guys are there. It's obviously not as many as the people that have been following me on YouTube, because the people that have been following me on YouTube have been doing it for a hell of a lot longer. But the Spotify listeners, specifically, I can see you now. How's it going? I'm waving at you, even though you can't see me because this is an audio platform. Let's move on. Speaking of two matches that are just hilarious just because I want to see them. Going into the Elimination Chamber, this is where I say this is where the blocks just fall into place after most of the speculation is done with the Rumble and Chamber. Randomly on SmackDown, we had Bray Wyatt come out and cut a promo and say, hey, Lashley and Lesnar, whoever wins out of you two, I've got next. Sure. Okay, why not? Now, the last time Bray Wyatt had a match that I was like, I don't know if that's going to be a good idea or not, it was the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt taking on Ryback. So I took the big L on that one. Huge fucking big L on that one. But with Lashley versus Lesnar, it ended in a DQ because Lesnar was like, fuck this shit, and kicked him in the nuts. Oh, yes. But now we've taken a detour here, and MVP, who represents Omos and is trying to get back in the good graces of Bobby Lashley, says, we saw what you did to Bobby Lashley, you're scared of him, rah, really disrespectful. Look at the man sitting next to me now, he wants to fight you at WrestleMania. And it's Omos. I don't know what we do with that. Other than a fuck ton of German suplex. Suplex City on Omos will be fantastic. An F5 on Omos will look like an actual fucking helicopter. I need Brock Lesnar to be as funny in this match as he possibly can. I need this to be the moment that I need this match to be the reason that the Hurt Business actually gets together, specifically, like officially. As much as I would love to see, Shelton Benjamin, but more specifically Cedric Alexander, get a proper push and actually go for something. If they are used as fodder in this match, they are going to get tossed. Oh yes, this will be hilarious. This will be one of those matches that Lesnar laughs the whole way through. I don't know what this does for Omos, because he ain't winning. Spoiler, he ain't winning. But Lesnar versus Omos is just like, what? Because Lesnar, the speculation is that Lesnar, in character, purposely got himself disqualified because he didn't want to have anything to do with Bray Wyatt. Now, that has a really, really positive or a really negative connotation that I'm not going to get into right now. But Omos versus Lesnar is just something I want to see. And speaking of something I just want to see, if we go by the letter of the challenge, Lashley won. He won by disqualification, but he still won in a match where Wyatt said, "I got next." The ridiculousness of this, I think that the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match was dumb. The big criticism that everybody had of that match is that it was dumb. I'm gonna drop some knowledge on you guys. It was supposed to be dumb. It was a Technicolor corporate-sponsored trip to Putting Edge for my Canadian fans that know what Putting Edge is. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. Very, very similar thought went into Elimination Chamber. Yes, they gave Lashley and Lesnar a shitty finish, but everybody going into that pay-per-view didn't give a shit about Lashley and Lesnar anyways, because we've seen it a bunch of times now. It is not the special, UFC crossover event that everybody, including me, thought it was going to be. So if you're going to give a bullshit finish to something on a pay-per-view, why not give the bullshit finish to the match that everybody screamed they didn't care about? Because all of a sudden they did when the bullshit finish came out and blah, 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 blah. Wyatt versus Lashley at Mania. Apparently WrestleMania is once again sponsored by Snickers. They made a big announcement about that today. Wyatt and Lashley in a Snickers match. I don't know what the fuck that'll be. I'm going to have fun with it. I want the next step. I want Bobby Lashley to find a partner. If the Omos thing isn't happening, let Omos and Lashley take on Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy. It's gonna be dumb. Spaz, why would you want that? It's gonna be so fucking dumb. Because I like dumb. Fuck me. You guys watch grown men wrestle in orange juice. Suck my dick. Moving swiftly on. Austin Theory versus John Cena, potentially for the United States Championship. Cena's coming back to Raw in a week and a half. He's going to challenge Theory. That's going to be set for WrestleMania. It's all been nothing. It's been everything and nothing as far as the build. Theory's been dropping all the Cena catchphrases and all that, and apparently very, very early on, the last time John Cena was on the show, he spent some time with Theory doing some pre-roll and some pre-recorded content with the United States Championship, which is why it was kind of a no-brainer that Theory was going to retain the United States Championship at the Elimination Chamber. I'm going to stick to what I said before. Damian Priest should have won the United States Championship, because as much as I want to see Theory versus Cena, because how ridiculous John Cena has a very specific brand of ridiculousness, so does Austin Theory, and the way I think they could feed off of each other in a match is fantastic. What it will do, or what it should do, for Austin Theory is fantastic. John Cena with his weird hair and bald spot notwithstanding, it's going to be a lot of fun. The key word here is fun, if you haven't been following what I've said so far. Keyword here is fun. I don't think this needs the United States Championship. Here's the counterpoint. Everybody is saying that it makes sense that it's for the United States Championship because John Cena was the guy that was famous for doing the United States Open Challenge. Fair. Fair enough. But he's not going to win. Theory should win anyway. I gotta get my thoughts in the right order here. Theory should win anyway. But making this for the US title is basically like saying, yeah, here's the match, but Theory's gonna win. I want to know Theory's gonna win without them telling me he's gonna win, if that makes sense. I think the match is gonna be a lot of fun. I think you might get a couple other people involved. Random thought, because John Cena's a part-timer and somebody else I could mention is not, and last time we saw him was currently a babyface. Could this be used to facilitate the return of Randy Orton? Because I'm not going to lie, people are going to think I'm crazy for this. People are going to think that he would be in the main event scene. People are going to think that he's going to re-team with Matt Riddle when Matt Riddle gets back. Theory versus Orton wouldn't hurt my feelings going forward, like in the post-WrestleMania, like going into WrestleMania Backlash or whatever as a B pay-per-view. Theory versus Randy Orton wouldn't be terrible. And you could always do the heel thing. Jericho, I beat Rock and Austin in one night. If Theory can say that he beat John Cena and Randy Orton, these guys had one of the rivalries that went on forever. Theory being able to say, I defended my United States Championship against John Cena and Randy Orton back-to-back, huge for him. Now, he'll crow about it in the ways that drive everybody else nuts, and, you know, Theory for a long time was one of those people that everybody decided wasn't allowed to be successful, so that'll bug all the right people, but I think it's going to be really good. Now, going from, I think it's just going to be fun, to one of the matches that could legitimately steal WrestleMania, especially after their respective performances in the Royal Rumble, is Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. Seth Rollins is somebody who needs to get, once we get the title away from Roman, I mean, we could revisit Rollins versus Cody now for the championship. We could have Rollins stay babyface and face the person that takes that belt off of Cody, because I don't think Cody Rhodes' reign is going to be very long. Spoiler alert. He's got to be in that main event scene soon. But in the meantime, he's being used in very interesting ways. He was laced together, a little too long for my liking, but he was laced together with Austin Theory to give that United States Championship situation a little bit of a boost. Remember that time, for a very brief period of time, Austin Theory was the United States Champion that had a lot of challengers circling around him. It was like Lashley and Rollins and Ziggler, and Mustafa Ali got himself in there somehow. I think The Miz was in there at some point and all that. But I mean, the biggest name, I'm sorry, I know he's not the only ex-world champion in that mix, but I mean, the biggest name in that whole conglomerate of challengers was Seth Rollins. And then last year, we chose Seth Rollins to be the guy standing in the ring when Cody Rhodes made his return. That's not an accident. That's absolutely not an accident. Here's a guy from NXT to now that Triple H said, yeah, there's my guy, first NXT champion, etc., 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 that Triple H and Vince agreed on. Now, not saying that everything he's done has been great. Not saying that everything that they've done to him has been great, but look at the, like I say, NXT in its heyday versus WWE when NXT was in its heyday couldn't be any different. So the two guys running those two different eras at the time, if they can agree on somebody, they've got to have something. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. Picking him to be the one that reintroduced Cody Rhodes to the WWE Universe, and yes, I'm using their parlance, don't mind me, that wasn't by accident. And now this year, he's been the one chosen, much like The Miz was a safe set of hands to be chosen, to further the introduction of Logan Paul to not only WWE, but Big Four pay-per-view stages, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, etc., etc. Something else needs to happen eventually. Like I said, again, post-WrestleMania, we need to revisit the Logan Paul Ricochet thing, because that was fucking awesome. But moving swiftly on, Seth Rollins, Logan Paul. Logan Paul showed what he could do at fucking Saudi when he was going. He was face to face with Roman Reigns, but what he really was an outsider from outside of WWE, like technically, going face to face with the biggest story in, listen to me very carefully when I say this, all of wrestling. All of it. And he held his own. We knew he wasn't going to win. That wasn't even the point. It's kind of like the Austin Theory, John Cena thing. We knew he wasn't going to win. That's the point. But he looked in the faces of the men making up the biggest story in wrestling right now and didn't exactly look out of place. Other than the fact that some people don't like him. They don't like that he's in the company. Blah, 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 blah. Go cry somewhere else. Logan Paul is going to bow up to Seth Rollins in this match, and we saw what he did with Ricochet as just one small spot in the Royal Rumble. That was fantastic. It was dumb. It didn't make any sense. Yes, I understand the criticisms of it. But do you think, like, Rollins is going to take this as a challenge, as I've been chosen as another safe pair of hands to help this new guy assimilate to, like, what we do here? That's a challenge for Seth Rollins. Do you not think that an all-arounder, like I said about HBK before, like I said about CM Punk, and I'll say the same thing about Rollins, do you not think that stepping up to an all-arounder like Seth Rollins is not going to be taken as a challenge on the shoulders of Logan Paul, both legitimately and ego-wise? Now, legitimately, as a person that's trying to learn a new craft, here's a guy that I need to measure up to. As somebody with an ego, and no, an ego is not necessarily a bad thing, take that as a challenge. Oh, fucking yes. Make this the semi-main on night one. Make this the semi-main that goes on right before Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, because that's going to be the fireworks match. That's going to wake up the crowd if the show tends to go long. Crowd's going to be nice and awake. I don't even think Rollins gets hurt by losing this match. I don't think he will, because they are switching. They sort of go back and forth on the barometer whether Logan Paul is a face or a heel, depending on who he's facing, which is absolutely fine, shows his range. But, I mean, everybody loves Seth Rollins, everybody loves singing his song, and I'm sorry, the Joker parody that he's doing for the WrestleMania commercials is awesome, don't at me. So, Rollins is probably going to win. So, the fireworks are going to come off of that. I hope he has a ridiculous Joker entrance. I really do. Then send the fans home happy with Rhea Ripley taking the title off of Charlotte. Hopefully, maybe, perhaps, after Asuka has already saved the other title from Bianca Belair. Edge versus Balor. And this is a little bit more of a simple one, because this was originally rumored for the Royal Rumble. Two things here. I need Finn to be the Demon, and I need this to be Hell in the Cell, because Hell in the Cell was teased in the dirt sheets 2 months ago now. Because Judgment Day are the other best thing happening in wrestling right now. There's two things in wrestling right now that are the best thing ever, as far as my opinion. And because one is so serious and so emotional, the other one has to be ridiculous. And that's where Judgment Day is awesome. If Judgment Day wasn't so ridiculous, I don't think the Bloodline would be as engaging and emotional as it is. Also, you got one big story on each show. There is no champion on Raw right now. You got Cody Rhodes, who's going to be the champion, fine, but there's no champion on Raw, so there's no championship story specifically on Raw. The story on Raw is the Judgment Day, and if you don't like that, you're not paying attention. I need to see what the Judgment Day version of the demon version of Finn Balor looks like, because I have a feeling it's going to be ridiculous and piss off all the right people. But the match between Balor, Edge, Rhea Ripley, Beth Phoenix at Elimination Chamber was a crazy over-delivery. Crazy, and I mean, I'm not surprised, but like, I had a certain high expectation and they blew it out of the water. I think it was absolutely fantastic. The interaction between Rhea Ripley and Beth Phoenix specifically, awesome. The double power bomb on both of the guys was great. Dominic being the most hated man in Montreal was fantastic. Now, I could have put Ray versus Dominic on this card as well, but they're dragging out this thing with Karrion Kross. Now, this Friday, as you guys are listening to this, this Friday, the match with Karrion Kross is happening. Pretty sure Dominic Mysterio is going to get involved because Rhea Ripley is going to go talk to Charlotte and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to be eating my words in 24 hours. That's fine. I don't mind. I want to be proven wrong, which is, once again, as I say, don't leave Damian Priest as the only guy not doing anything in the Judgment Day at WrestleMania, which is why they should have put the United States Championship on him, because why? John Cena versus Austin Theory doesn't need the United States Championship. Moving on, Edge versus Finn Balor in Hell in the Cell. Are you gonna tell me that's a bad match? No. I want the cage to be purple. I've been bitching about the red cage forever, but I don't care. In this particular context, bring the element that the Judgment Day bring. Purple Cell, on fire, I don't care. Edge is going to have his super serious, gritty goth entrance. It's probably going to involve a lot of fire. Have the Purple Cell for Judgment Day, set on fire by Edge. Do all the ridiculous things. We know, because Edge said it the last time that Monday Night Raw was in Toronto. He said the next time he was in Toronto, he's going to be announcing his retirement. It's basically a farewell tour. So have him in the ring with the guy that represents the group that he created in a purple cell on fire at WrestleMania. Fucking do it. Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Torn on this one. They haven't technically announced it yet. Jey Uso is fucking brilliant in the way that he's walked away from the Bloodline, but not the... He's walked away from the Bloodline, but not from the Usos. He came back on SmackDown to defend his championships against Ricochet and Braun Strowman, which is still a weird team. It's weird. I don't know how we get to this, right? Because the only way we get to this is if they are fully willing to commit to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens going for the tag team titles not being a consolation prize. How can I say this nicely? People are saying that this should be the main event of night one, and you're wrong. Because as emotional as the story is, and as much as this is the best story in wrestling, chronologically, Kevin Owens lost at the Royal Rumble. Sami Zayn lost at Elimination Chamber. And they're challenging for mid-card titles. And yes, I'm going to be one of those guys that says, if the right people are involved, and Charlotte and Rhea Ripley are the right people, the women's title can be a main title. And they've proven that over several years. Tony Khan, please take note. Tag team wrestling in WWE, even though the Usos are fucking fantastic and should be the poster children for pro wrestling, tag team wrestling, I'm sorry, Bucks, Usos better. It's a thing. It trends for a reason. It's tag team wrestling in WWE, and we have to do a lot more. And I'm saying this as somebody who stands up for WWE a lot. You have to do a lot. Even now, even with the reign that the Usos are on now, you have to do a lot to convince me as a lifelong WWE fan that you are taking the tag team titles seriously as a main event concern at WrestleMania. Because you got challengers in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens that have lost at their last two respective pay-per-views versus, the person that... versus the match that was created by the person winning a Royal Rumble. Sorry, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte needs to main event night 1. Roman, Cody needs to main event night 2. If you want to have, the tag team championship match be the semi-main, cool. Bump down the Logan and Rollins thing that I was just talking about, or bump that to the second night. Whatever, make it the semi-main. Absolutely, abso-fucking-lutely. I couldn't argue with you in the slightest. But the other thing about this is, I'm more interested in the Usos. Yes, it makes sense. Sammy and KO are finally going to come together at the last minute. They're going to have the hug that everybody wants. We're going to have Dr. Shelby in the crowd chanting for them to hug it out along with the crowd, I bet. Just because WWE would do something like that. But the more important story here is the Usos. The more important story here is the Usos, because the Usos have to go in there knowing that they need to defend their titles, and knowing that they need to defend their titles for two different reasons. Because Jimmy needs to defend those titles to prove his worth to Roman Reigns. Jay needs to win those titles to prove to Jimmy that they don't need Roman Reigns. That needs to be the story you tell. Now, they can still lose, and they can still feel those two very different losses, but that needs to be the motivation going forward. Jay is the guy that's torn. I've been saying it for months now. The Bloodline saga is not the KO story. It's not the Sami Zayn story. It's not the Roman Reigns story. It is the Jey Uso story, and that's how it needs to end. Tragically, he'll be the one to get the haluva kick, and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will go on and win. And it'll be fantastic. And it'll be the culmination, and what we do after that, God only knows. But I don't think it's the main event. It will be probably the best tag team match we see this year, and I'm putting that out there right now. I don't care. I don't care. To those of you on the other side of the line, I'm sorry. Uso's better. Now, the last thing that I'm going to say is it's around Damage Control, it's around the Women's Tag Team Championships, it's around Legends coming back, and I need to know which direction they're going. As we sit right now here, as I'm recording, on February 23rd, 2023, this coming Monday, we have a Women's Tag Team title match between Lita, Becky Lynch, and Damage Control. Interesting on its surface, because Dakota Kai's going around on crutches. So is it going to be Io Sky and Bayley for the night? Nobody knows. Thing is, Trish Stratus, once again, was in the back on Raw, and we were told that the original story was going to be that they were going to have a trios match at Elimination Chamber. It didn't happen. I'm cool with that. Elimination Chamber was what it was. So, is there some kind of interference? Is there some kind of fuckery? Does Bayley get involved? Then we get the entrance of Trish Stratus, and then we get this trios match, which is going to be fucking awesome. Or do we do something else? Because this is something that's entirely happening on Raw. Damage Control, even though they can go on both shows because they have the tag team titles, and the tag team titles hop both shows, it's fine. They're a Raw team. Becky and Lita, Becky's a Raw star. Lita can do what she wants because she's a Hall of Famer. But it's basically a Raw story. But there's another story happening on SmackDown. So here is what I propose to you. The trios match, Damage Control versus Becky, Lita, and Trish, would be fucking fantastic. Lita's awesome. You guys know I got a big bias for old school Team Extreme, whether it's Jeff, whether it's Matt, whether it's Lita. Trish Stratus, my hometown girl. Obviously, I'm going to love seeing her on the screen. But here is what I propose to you. This coming Monday on Raw, there is no winner between Damage Control and Becky and Lita, because we get interference from SmackDown's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. And here's what we do at WrestleMania. You do Kai and Sky versus Shayna and Ronda versus Becky and Lita for the women's championship matches. Recently, somebody, I don't remember who it was, I think it was somebody from What Culture, suggested these three teams in a TLC match, which would be fucking phenomenal. And I know what you're saying. Hey, Spaz, that leaves us with some spare parts and some spare characters to play around with. Why not just do Trish Stratus versus Bayley? I mean, why not? The trios match would be great, but what it does is it once again devalues the tag team championships, because once again, they're not involved at WrestleMania. They're not defended at WrestleMania because the people who carry those championships are in a different match. That doesn't send the greatest message about titles that are already not that respected. Anyways, it would still be a fun match. Fantastic. If they lost those tag team titles before WrestleMania, 100%, I would say do the trios match. Absolutely fine. But if Shayna and Ronda turn their attention to those titles at WrestleMania, you do Kai and Sky versus Shayna and Ronda versus Becky and Lita, and then separately from that, so that Damage Control can get double exposure, I guess, because people say that they're a bad group and they're really not. I mean, Trish Stratus and Bayley are not going to have a bad match. They're just not. And I mean, Trish can win, Becky and Lita can win, and all the baby faces can still go off and celebrate together. Shayna and Ronda can win, and everybody else can die, which would absolutely happen, realistically. But, as I say, what we're probably getting, Damage Control versus Becky, Lita, and Trish, awesome. Probably like a career moment for Becky Lynch to be teaming with two Hall of Famers after she fought Lita last year in Saudi Arabia. So there's a turnaround, there's some story there, there's whatever the case may be. Damage Control has to win that, because two of those, in the words of CM Punk, two of those legends aren't going to be there the next night on Raw, plus they're title holders, and if they're not going to be in a title match, they should at least look strong holding titles. Damage Control definitely wins that. You do the triple threat, Kai and Sky versus Shayna and Ronda versus Becky and Lita. I don't know who wins that. I don't know who I want to win that. Probably Shayna and Ronda. I don't think they put the belts on Becky and Lita unless they do it this week on Raw to then be dropped to Shayna and Ronda at WrestleMania in my triple threat booking. But I'm sorry, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Lita in a TLC match. You're not going to have a bad time. And the bonus on all of that is, in a separate match, you get Trish Stratus versus Bayley in a one-on-one classic. This is it, guys. This is 10 crazy, not quite confirmed possible matches for WrestleMania/WrestleMania weekend with the NXT thing there. Let me know what you guys think. Am I absolutely off my rocker? Am I putting way too much faith in WWE? I know exactly the type of people that are going to say yes, but hey, Dynamite's on Wednesday. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all of these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. Right now, I am tagging out.